Hello, everyone. This is the last session before your coffee break, and I know we're over time. So if everyone wants to give a quick woo and a little clap to get energy back in the room. Nice. Sweet. I am here today to talk to you about Farcon, a community-driven initiative to convene, connect, and celebrate the Farcaster community. How many of you have heard of Farcaster before, by raise of hands? Nice. Great. You'll hear from the Farcaster co-founder later today about Farcaster as parallel media, but today I'm going to talk to you about Farcaster as a place for parallel community, parallel society. So, it's a little bit different. I think every other speaker who's come up here has been the founder of whatever project they're sharing. I am neither the founder of Farcon nor Farcaster. In fact, I don't even work for them. I am simply a power user, what one may call an accidental Farcaster influencer, and hopefully a story to inspire some of the people out here today in the audience to become a community builder on your own. Before I worked in crypto, I did kind of developing strategies, executing strategies for brands, celebrities, startups, and family offices, all of who had major social followings. And so as a result, we would often work directly with Twitter or Instagram or Facebook for new features and go-to-market strategies. I worked with these platforms as they evolved from social networks, primarily designed for connection, as they turned into social media, primarily designed for broadcast and distribution. This was phenomenal for all of our clients, except when the APIs were closed or when they decided to delete an account with millions of followers. And so when I learned about Farcaster, I was really excited about the permissionless social graph and the freedom it gave developers to build their own apps. And so when I joined back in 2021, when there was only 100 of us, I couldn't wait to dig into some of the decentralized nature of the protocol. But what I found to be the most interesting aspect of it wasn't any of these features, but actually the culture and the community of the early users. How many of you here have internet friends? By raise of hand. Should be a lot of you from the Network State Conference. I had never had internet friends before, and I was obsessed. I was like, here's a community of people who value authenticity, who are kind of definite optimists, who care about intellectual curiosity, who are truth-seeking and wanted to collaborate together. These are my people. And I needed to spend more time with them, and I wanted to spend time with them in person. So every face you see here started as an internet stranger, quickly became an internet friend, and now dropped the internet, and I consider them just friends. And it turns out I wasn't the only Farcaster user who had this experience. There were two users, Grin and Cameron, who last June decided to host the inaugural Farcon in Boston. The network was relatively small at the time, but they managed to get 50 users who were super excited about Farcaster to fly all the way to Boston for 2 days of connection with the goal of promoting collaboration. And it worked. It did exactly that. If you look at this photo, really tiny, sorry about that, there's two women on the left who had never met before, and then, after Farcon, they went on to launch their own on-chain media brand called GM Farcaster. But the initial Farcon was always meant to be decentralized. Grin and Cameron wanted to pass it on to the next members of the community, and so my good friend, Graham McBain, went and asked, can I do the next Farcon? And they graced it to him. He comes to me with a vision to bring it to Venice Beach, the home of Farcaster, and coincidentally, my home as well. And when we announced Farcon 2, we had a goal of doubling the number of participants. We wanted 100 people to fly all the way to LA instead of just 50. And we thought it was an ambitious goal. Well, then the network 16x'd right after the announcement, and we received 5,000 applications. And so the question switched from how do we get 100 people to show up to how do we meet the demand of a growing ecosystem while staying true to the culture and the community that made it flourish and grow in the first place. And the answer was pretty simple. It was just to lean into the community and the technology and the infrastructure that was already in place. Here's a quick video. So as you can see, it covered a variety of interest areas. There's art, there's music, there's coffee. Everyone loves good coffee. There were talks, and this was entirely volunteer-driven, so no involvement whatsoever from the Farcaster team. And how exactly did we make this come to life? I'll go through some of the apps and kind of the primitives that we used in order to do it. So, because Farcaster is connected to your Ethereum or a Solana address, we were able to use an app like Deform that would pull on-chain data to say, hey, did this account put down a 20 USDC deposit to come to Farcon? And then with that, because it's an open social graph, we were able to pull and look at all of the applicants to see how long have they been on the network? Are they casting? Are they engaging? Are they working with other people? So that we didn't have to go through each applicant and double check the username back and forth, back and forth. Also, because all of the data is open, we were able to go and see what are the most popular topics, what are the most popular activities, so that we could then find the people who are talking about them most, so that they could put on the art night or the music night or host the surf session outside. From there, once you got accepted, that address could then mint an NFT. And once you had the NFT, you could then join a token-gated group chat. And if you didn't end up going to Farcon, you could still follow along with all of the updates by looking at all of the information in the channels. All of that can be done within the Farcaster ecosystem. In fact, some of these things you don't even have to leave the app itself, or one of the apps itself, Warpcast, to do that. From there, we wanted to say, hey, there are all of these developers building in the ecosystem. And oftentimes, I don't know, did anyone here go to Token 24/9 or Solana Breakpoint? Nice. Good show of hands. Oftentimes, you go to these conferences, and they're completely built on Web 2 apps or the traditional or incumbent apps that we're using today. And we were like, that is not the future that we want to live in. But oftentimes, there is a pretty heavy friction, or there's a lot of friction in order to use these apps. But we were about to have 500 people, the most active people in the Farcaster community, be in Venice. And what better opportunity to at least dog food and get them to be training and battle testing apps like never before. And so here are some of the apps that we encouraged everyone to use, and everybody did use. There's kind of a Luma equivalent, so a Farcaster native events app. We have all of the passes. We're done with Icebreaker, which you can think of as an on-chain LinkedIn. Think of that as a digital business card. There's a Find My Friends app. And then we even had, for the inaugural Farcon pickleball tournament, you could bet on-chain on which team you think you would win. All integrated with the Farcaster social graph. And at the end of this Farcon, the energy was electric, and everyone immediately went and said, what about the next Farcon, which actually just happened this week in Singapore. So kudos to the team that put that on. Everyone was asking, what about the next one? What about the next one? And the question that I was actually asking myself wasn't, what about the next Farcon? It's, what happens in the meantime? What happens between these tentpole events that so many of us put on? How do we stay connected? How do we continue building this community? And so what I decided to do was experiment. And I launched an initiative called Summer at Club TED. Club TED is a kind of play on Club Med. I might be dating myself and anybody in the audience here. And it's an on-chain membership club. Think of it as a social club that I started in order to play around with each other. And pretty much was like going to support anybody in the Farcaster ecosystem who wanted to do the same. And it completely took off. Here you can see photos, so Club TED meetups. Then you can also see that other communities decided to jump in as well. So we have a tabletop community, so people who meet up together online and in person to play board games together. And then what we learned from this is that people want a reason to get together and they want consistency. And so we recently launched Farcaster Fridays, which is the first Friday of every month. Farcasters around the world get together in their local city to hang out and to meet up together. And another key takeaway I learned is that as the Farcaster network grows, people want to meet up less about Farcaster and more about their sub-communities. And you might think, well, isn't that bad for the network? And the answer is actually like, no, that's great. That's actually what Farcaster is perfectly designed to do. And what I mean by that is that you have one social graph. And so you're able to log in with your Farcaster account. So sign in with, if you're familiar with sign in with Facebook, you're able to log in. And so whether you do an events app like Partiful or Luma, whether you want to follow your favorite creator through a Patreon equivalent, whether you're into fitness and running and use Strava, you are able to sign into your Farcaster account and bring your social graph and your following with you and be able to connect with people that way. It is a completely permissionless and portable social graph, regardless of what regardless of what app you're using, or regardless of whatever your sub-interests may be. And why this is exciting is because when you pair a permissionless social graph with digital ownership, so whatever is in your Ethereum wallet, whatever is in connected to your Solana address, you have a completely cohesive digital experience. So your digital footprint, your ownership, your social graph, your reputation, your interests, all of that exists in one, and you can travel with that regardless of whatever app you are on. This does not exist with any current social media platforms today. However, in order for this to be the future, we have to be able to scale and compete with some of those incumbents today. So if you would like to join Warpcast, I encourage you to download this app. It's one of the main onboarding apps, but there's tons of other apps. And hopefully I'll see you at a Farcaster Friday or a Farcon in the future. Thank you.